to fully arrive into this moment. Allow the awareness to pull from thoughts of the past and the future. Allow it to pull onto your breath. Just let that awareness merge with your breath. Thoughts still may come. Sensations may come. Don't worry about them. Don't allow your awareness to get hijacked by these thoughts. Just allow it to stay merged with your breath as it flows in and out. Noises in the outer world will always be there. Thoughts will always be there. Distractions will always be there. But allow yourself, allow your awareness and your attention to not get pulled by them, to not hook into them. Keep that awareness focused only on the breath. Whenever you feel ready, gently and slowly holding the awareness on the breath, holding the anchoring and the grounding, holding the presence, gently allow the eyes to open. Welcome. So we start usually with a question that's come to us in advance from our global family. They come in by email, they come in on Facebook or YouTube or wherever people are watching. So we start with one that's come in advance, and then we open it up to any questions that anyone here may have. Can you recommend a mantra or a prayer, shloka, that I can recite for Vedic Upasana, especially to relieve anxiety? So if you didn't understand all the Sanskrit words in there, don't worry. Basically the question is there a beautiful mantra or a prayer that I can recite that will especially relieve my anxiety, but also that will take me into that divine awareness, that truth, that oneness, that connection, that sadhana, spiritual practice. So all of them, I mean every mantra is basically some variation of I surrender to you in this form or in that form or in this form. If you look at most of the mantras, they all are just, oh God, in this form or by this name or with these characteristics, I surrender to you. And it's beautiful because surrender, of course, is the greatest anti-anxiety medicine in the world. Right? What is anxiety? Anxiety is that fear that our hold, our grip, our control on the world is beginning to loosen, right? Whether it's on the people around me. Oh my God, what if my kid wears something wrong, says something wrong, does something wrong? Oh my God, what if my family members, my friends, my neighbors, they don't like this or they don't like that or they do this or they say that or somebody tells my secret or nobody comes to my party. Nobody likes me. Or, oh my God, what if the stock market collapses? What if? So anxiety is rooted in this idea that I actually have some control, which is kind of illusion 101, you could say. The very core, the very foundation of illusion is this idea that we've got control over anything in the outer world. And then the anxiety arises when we fear that maybe something isn't going to go how we want it to go. Something within ourselves. I've got to give an exam. Oh my God, maybe I'm going to fail it. I've got to present a report, a presentation, a project. What if I forget everything I wanted to say? What if people laugh? What if my boss fires me? What if everyone thinks it's stupid? So internal stuff and everything in the world. And so all of the mantras that teach us surrender are mantras that are anti-anxiety. There's a beautiful instruction, you can say. Instruction given in the form of a shlok from the Bhagavad Gita, in which Krishna says, Yat karoshi yadashnasi, yujjahoshi dadasyat, yat tapasyasi konteya, tat kurushva madarpanam. And it means whatever you do, offer it to me. The actions you perform, the food you take in, the words you speak, everything you do, even your spiritual practice. Did you make offerings today into the yagna? Did you serve others? Did you do some kind of sadhana, some kind of tapasya, some kind of service? Offer that to me also. Offer everything to me. It's the mantra of surrender. Not just surrender your mind, surrender your thoughts, surrender your desires, surrender your fear, but actually surrender even everything you do, including that which you think you're doing for your own spiritual awakening, because then, of course, that's also an anxiety. My God, I go to the mandir every day. I do the abhishek, I do my puja, I do my prayers, I chant my mala, I meditate, I do yoga. But oh my God, what if I don't get enlightened? What if I've got to come back and do this all over again? What if the thing that I've prayed for? Because of course, a lot of us are doing prayers that aren't necessarily just, oh God, let me be one with you, but that are, oh God, my daughter really wants to get into that university. Please just get my child into the university they want to get into. Or, oh, I really want this promotion. I really want this job. Please. I'll chant 108 rounds on my mala. I'll do abhishek every day. I'll fast 3 times a week. Just please, please give me this promotion. So we go also asking something in exchange for what we're doing, even the spiritual practice. So I love this. It's an instruction, but it's an instruction given in the form of a beautiful shlok, a beautiful mantra, to remind us every single thing I do should be offered to God. Because then what it does is it takes the anxiety away. It's, Chalo, I've done my part. Rest is up to you. And what it reminds us is also, I never actually had control. When you realize that we have no control, anxiety disappears, or you die. I mean, either you die of a heart attack instantaneously, or your anxiety disappears. Because when you realize that it's actually not in our hands. The only thing in our hands is our own thoughts, our own actions. We've got control over that, or our own reactions. Those are the only things we've got control over. What I do with my hands, my arms, my legs, my mouth, my gray and white cells in my brain that are creating the thoughts, the electricity, the chemistry that's taking place in my brain that we call thoughts or emotions. Those are the things I have control over. The rest I don't. Anxiety is that which is rooted in something we have no control over. What the universe is going to give us back for what we've done, whether in our families, in our companies, in our jobs, in our bank accounts, in our success, whatever it may be. So the greatest antidote to anxiety is to surrender. And if you wanted a simpler mantra, we just say, I love you, or thank you. Thank you is the best, simplest, shortest mantra. And it's also a beautiful antidote to anxiety, to depression. Thank you. Thank you, God. Because the more we are grateful, the more we remember that it wasn't in our control, that we have been blessed, we have been graced, whatever we have. And B, it shifts our entire mindset from one of lack, one of grabbing, or one of pushing away, to one of gratitude. And there's always something to be grateful for. So many of us wake up in the morning with, oh my God, I've got this to-do list. What about this? What about that? What's going to happen here? And we're already anxious before we even get out of bed. But if instead you could start the day with a gratitude practice of just thank you. Thank you. Do your eyes open? Can you see? Thank you, God. Can you still move your limbs by your own accord? Are your arms and your legs still under your control? Thank you, God. Is there running water coming out of your tap in which you can bathe? Thank you, God. Is there food somewhere in your home or available to you? Thank you, God. Do you wake up in a bed, in a home, in an ashram, in a community, in a world where there's someone, even just one person, you love and who loves you back? Thank you, God. If you've got all of those things, you are more blessed than the vast, overwhelming majority of the world. So you can take your pick between our Sanskrit mantra from the Bhagavad Gita of surrender, or just thank you. And you'll see the anxiety just dissipate immediately. You cannot be full of love and gratitude and full of stress and anxiety at the same time. They're mutually exclusive. So wherever there is stress and anxiety, just see how you can bring love and gratitude in your life. There's so much more to say on that, but I want to stop here and open it up to any questions that any of you may have.
I have one.
Of course.
What is meaning of Sarvabhuti Tirtha, and how an individual can make it his aim of his life and do as per this mantra?
Beautiful. So it means, in simple English, dedicated to all, serving all, for the welfare of all, for the benefit of all. Here we are at Parmarth Niketan. Parmarth, dedicated to the welfare of all. And how do we make that our aim? By realizing that each of us has taken birth as an instrument in the hands of the divine. This is a beautiful, beautiful teaching of Sanatana Dharma, but it's also a beautiful teaching of so many other religions of the world as well. St. Francis of Assisi gives us the most beautiful prayer that says, "O Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. Where there is," and I'm going to get this not exactly right, but I'll get the gist, bear with me. "Where there is hatred, let me bring love. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is despair, hope." So it's not about a specific religion. This beautiful teaching is given to us in our ancient language of Sanskrit. But I know that so many with us today are not necessarily Sanskrit scholars, are not necessarily of the Sanatan Dharma tradition, are not necessarily of this background, and that's okay. This should be the aim of our life, regardless of our religion. To be dedicated to the welfare of all. And there's a lot of different reasons of that. The first is, as I said, that we're instruments of the divine. And our highest use, you could say, of this physical body is to be that instrument. Our highest dharma, our highest purpose, is to recognize our oneness with the divine. That is the ultimate aim of our spiritual practice. Whether we say samadhi, that experience, that eighth limb of yoga, that oneness. Whether we talk about moksha, freedom, absolute liberation. These arise only when I am aware that I am not separate from the divine. That I am divine, that I am whole, that I am complete, full, infinite. That I'm not just this physical body with its strengths and its weaknesses and its issues and its history and its this and its that. But that I'm one with the divine. That's our highest purpose on a spiritual level, is to have that awareness. And we've been given a physical body. We have arms, we have legs, we have hands. We have an incredible brain that innovates, that initiates, that plans, that executes, that implements, that has compassion for others, that cries when we see hungry people, that cries when we see people suffering. And so it's a very subtle and very beautiful spiritual, spacious awareness, because the two things seem like they're opposites. On the one hand, this awareness that I'm one with God, that everything is divine, that I am divine, that there is no separation. Well, one would think, okay, if that's the case, then maybe all I'm supposed to do is just sit here and meditate upon infinite awareness. And yet, all of our spiritual teachings tell us the exact opposite. Stand up, do your duty, fulfill your dharma, play your role, be an instrument, do your best, but just don't be attached. So we've got these two very seemingly opposite goals of a spiritual life. But the truth is they're not opposite. It's the awareness that I, the self, the capital S self have of who I am, that leads to jiva mukti, that freedom, that moksha while still in the body. Because of course, as we always say, the body is not the problem. The body is not what keeps you from liberation. It's the mind. It's the games of the mind. Right? Man eva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayo. The mind is the problem. Or the mind is the solution. It's up to you. Either it's going to give you liberation, or it's going to make you stuck. So we have the spiritual practice, the awareness of my lowercase s self to my uppercase s self. And then we've got this physical body and we've got this extraordinary creation. right here on planet Earth. And we've all been given a certain number of years to be here. Certain number of heartbeats, certain amount of strength, certain skills, certain abilities. And we're supposed to use them. And it's not one or the other. So when you talk about dedicating yourself to this welfare of all, the first awareness is, I am dedicated to it because they are not separate from me. It's not me, the great philanthropist, over here, me, the great humanitarian, you should all give me, lots of accolades and gold stars because aren't I a great humanitarian? No. That implies that I'm separate from those I serve. And that's where the first core spiritual teaching comes in. That's why we need both. Because otherwise, if it's just the action, then we start to feel like the doer. I'm the one. Did you see how many people I fed today? Right? Did you see how many people I gave something to? Did you see how many sick people we gave medicine to? Did you see how many schools we opened? Did you see how many orphanages we built? How many people we gave housing to? Whatever it may be. Then we're separate. That's where the spiritual practice and teaching of oneness is so critical. So first, I'm aware that I am not separate from all. And then, of course, I am dedicated to the service of all, because all are self. And so whether it's children dying of starvation, whether it's women dying in childbirth because they don't have access to the most basic medical treatment, whether it's our rivers being polluted, our trees being cut down, they are not separate from us. They are us. And so we serve as self to self. So it's not about just what you do. How many gold stars do you get today? But it's actually about the fullness of your internal awareness that overflows into the natural course of action of your life. And we become that instrument then of just the divine flow on earth, the presence of the divine on earth flowing through us, not being stuck by our ego, not being stuck by desires, not being stuck by fears, not being stuck by expectations or attachments, but just that instrument. Beautiful question. Are there any other questions? So I'll take one more that's come in advance. Do you believe that there will ever come a time when everyone will have achieved realization? And what do you think that time will be like? I'm hesitant because there's so many assumptions in the question. So for example, when we say everyone, well, does that mean humans as we know it? And if yes, then that time better happen really soon. Because if it doesn't, we're no longer going to be able to survive long enough to attain realization. So the universe is very patient. We always speak about how we're not saving Mother Earth. We're not saving the planet. The planet existed in the Ice Age. The planet will exist in a Fire Age. The Earth itself has no particular attachment to this very narrow level of proportions of oxygen and hydrogen and nitrogen and carbon. This very small window of temperature. The Earth doesn't have an attachment to it, but we as humans do. And so, if we say that everyone means human beings as we know them, then I certainly hope we do, because if we don't, we're not going to survive. That which is happening to our environment today is a product of ignorance. And so it doesn't matter how we conceive of self-realization, but this higher consciousness, this expanded consciousness, this realization, this awareness, this awakening into the truth of who we are, which is one with the Creator and the creation, which is this instrument of the divine on earth that is not separate from the divine, that has never been separate, but that nonetheless we've got this beautiful opportunity to remember the oneness. If we don't, at least the vast, overwhelming majority of people achieve that. Whether it's 50 years or 100 years or 150 years, it's not going to be very many years because before the earth is no longer inhabitable by humans. So when we speak about reincarnation, that assumes that actually we can keep taking birth as humans, which we are told are the pinnacle of evolution. I have to admit I sometimes doubt it, but nonetheless we are told that humans are the pinnacle of evolution. And I doubt it because, as far as I can tell, we are one of the very few species that kills for no reason, not to eat somebody, not because they're stealing our food or our home, but that's another subject. In any case, so we're told that this awareness, this liberation, can happen as a human because we have the ability to be aware and to be conscious, which means that the earth has to be able to sustain us. So we say, yeah, no problem, you don't get enlightened this life, koi baat nahi, you can come back and try it all over again. The dilemma is that assumes that actually we will be able to keep coming, that actually there will be an earth that is conducive to human existence. Otherwise, we have to start all over again. I'm sure there's some single-celled organism that can exist in fire. But then we go back to the beginning, right? Back to being single-celled organisms that were, originally in water. This time they'll be in fire. Who knows? Or maybe it'll be water again. Just only water, no land. But we have to, again, begin all over again. So I hope that whether with the aim of personal enlightenment, awakening, realization, or simply with the aim of being the very best instrument for others, for the welfare of others, alive today and the future generations, that we actually will take our spiritual practice very, very seriously. Because we may not have a lot of time. And if we don't wake up to the truth of our oneness. We're just going to keep harming our environment. We're going to keep grabbing, hoarding, polluting, damaging. We're going to keep seeing the earth as an object to be used and abused. We're going to keep cutting down the trees to graze cows to become hamburgers because I want to eat hamburgers. We're going to keep living in ways that are not only damaging in the moment, but that are not sustainable at all. And so, if you've got a commitment to your own awakening, to your own realization, you've got to do two things. Number one, make sure that you are working to serve the planet so that you can get another chance. So that if we don't get all the way there this life, at least we don't have to be anxious that, oh my God, I didn't get enlightened today. But that I know, cello, if not this life, next life, if not next life, then life after that, there's a whole destiny, right? But your other job simultaneously is to work as quickly as you can and as sincerely as you can to awaken in this moment. Because who knows if there's going to be another one. And because your awakening is actually the very greatest gift that you can give to this planet. Because when we actually realize the truth of who we are, then we're actually able to become these instruments. We're able to let the divine flow through us without ego, without attachment, without expectation. So I tend to be a pretty hardcore optimist. I do think that we are going to continue to be able to survive, which means, of course, that we are going to be realized, awake, free. Because on a purely scientific level, there's no other way. So let us all recommit to starting right here, right now. So many of us have a sense in our mind that there's something wrong with the present moment and that maybe Monday will be better. Maybe the new moon, maybe the full moon, maybe January 1st. Right? Let me just hang on to this identity, this illusion, this issue, this attachment, just a little bit longer. But let us realize that we've held on to it for so many moments after moments, hours after hours, days after days. Never gets us anywhere, except more and more stuck. And so this is the moment. There's nothing that you need for your freedom that you don't have in this moment. If you allow yourself to really experience it. It's the workings of your own mind that's telling you that you can't, that's telling you something wrong. But the thoughts and the thought patterns are also within your hands. Don't listen to them. Just keep, like we began with in the very short meditation, just keep bringing the awareness back to the space between the thoughts. Don't allow yourself to get hooked into them. Don't allow yourself to buy the story. I'll end with this. There's a beautiful story of a seeker who goes to an ashram. And he goes to the master one day and he says, "Master, I'm trying to meditate, but whenever I meditate, my mind wanders. I want God. I want to be one with God, but whenever I try to meditate, my mind wanders, and I don't know what to do about it." So the master takes the student to the river. There always seem to be beautiful rivers flowing in front of sacred ashrams. So the master takes the seeker to the river, and he holds his head under the water. And he keeps holding and keeps holding. And the young seeker thinks, "Oh my God, he's going to drown me. Like, I didn't realize he was quite so tough. I just told him my mind wandered." And then he starts to really panic. "Oh my God, I'm really going to die." And the master holds his head under just until the very last moment before he passes out. And he pulls him up by the hair. And the seekers, as you can imagine, you've just been suffocating under the water, thinking you're going to drown. And the master says to him, "So what were you thinking about down there?" The guy's like, "Thinking about? I was drowning. I was dying. I just wanted a breath of air." And the master said, "Was your mind wandering?" The guy said, "No, of course. It was just, I wanted air, I wanted air, I wanted air. Air was all I could think about." And the master said, "When you want God, like you wanted air, your mind will stop wandering." And so let us find that real wanting. Whether we say of God, of the divine, of our true self, of our awareness, of our awakening, of our enlightenment. These are all just different words. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what words we use. But when we want that capital T truth of who we are, the way you could imagine you'd want air if you were drowning, then all of those thoughts coming and saying, "You're not good enough, you're stupid, you can't do it, not for you, that won't work, first make breakfast," all of those thoughts automatically will start to dissipate and disappear. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evening. To our beloved family around the world. And I look so forward to being together tomorrow.